Okay, here's your report.
Thanks, Jane. I wish I could hire a whole team of yous.
Try posting a job on LinkedIn. It's the world's largest professional network. Unlike resumes, LinkedIn gives a real-time view into a candidate's skills, experiences, and more.
Let's do it. You're irreplaceable, Jane, but another you would be great.
Find your perfect match with LinkedIn. Post your free job at linkedin.com/achieve. That's linkedin.com/achieve. Terms and conditions apply.
There's so many points of heart within it, isn't there? Like you said, the fact that they don't even call it drugs or cocaine, it's treasure. Yeah, and that completely sets up the innocent mindset of it. Even though they're ultimately trying to do a drug deal, they're seeing it as treasure.
They talk about this big grandiose life, but then they can't even kill a chicken, or they, or they're afraid of lots of stuff. And there's a real vulnerability to their characters that I really like, and you can really connect with.
Hey guys, this is 67, number 67 of the Flixwatcher podcast. Welcome.
Hello and welcome to Flixwatcher podcast. Today we will be reviewing the 2017 film, The Young Offenders, with our guest Jason.
Hi there.
Tiernan.
Hello.
And as always, Kobi.
Hey. And if you want to hear more about us or read more about us online, come to our website, flixwatcher.tv, visit us and join in the banter with us on Twitter at FlixWatcherPod, and head over to iTunes, subscribe to us, review us, and share with your friends.
All films featured in the podcast were available to stream on Netflix UK at the time of recording, and please be aware there will be spoilers and some language that may offend. Hello, welcome to Flixwatcher podcast. In our little recording studio today, we are joined by Tiernan and Jason. If you would like to say a little bit about the podcast that you work on to our lovely listeners.
I do the Partly Political Broadcast, which is a political comedy podcast and therefore puts off people who like politics and comedy because it's not quite either of those. And I just sort of shout about the past week's politics and then get clever guests on who properly explain things to me. And that's mainly to stop me just crying about the world in my sleep.
So you must have the same problem as Have I Got News For You, that almost as soon as the episode is finished or in the can, shit changes.
Yeah, it's really fucked up. It's the worst. I mean, because mine comes out on a Tuesday morning, so a lot of stuff tends to happen on a Sunday or Monday.
Yeah.
And that's all right. But the worst was last year when Theresa May called the snap election 5 minutes after my podcast came out. And there's a lot of reasons I'm not happy with her, but that's up there. It's definitely up there. So angry.
I mean, thinking about being angry, are you just... How do you deal with having to kind of think and look about all this crap that's going on and kind of make it funny, and how do you just not end up just crying in a darkened room?
Well, I think, but my way of coping, so I've been doing stand-up comedy 15 years, and my way of coping with everything is to find a funny angle to it. So I think the best thing to do in these kind of times of absolute madness is to find something that can make you laugh about it. And also, if you laugh about it, it kind of helps you process it a little bit better. I think it kind of helps you understand it and look around it, and also maybe go, it's not actually that awful, that there's a way to look at this with some positivity somehow. I mean, it mainly does involve me coming up with really awful descriptions of Boris Johnson and Nigel Farage. This week I think I called Boris Johnson an old brass stuffed with melted custard creams, so things like that. But I think you've got to put a light sort of a light touch or a friendly touch into this kind of politics to make people want to have a listen to it. No one wants a miserable cast, do they?
And how far in advance do you think about the week ahead? I mean, the reason I'm asking is this weekend is the first arrival since he became president of President Nobed.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Is anyone going to go march? I'm going to go march.
Yeah, I've got a beer festival to go to that day as well, though. And also, because I ride around Regent's Park, and the ambassador's house is in Regent's Park. It's like a fortress there now. So I am livid that I can't go cycling in the morning. So I might march on for that reason.
That's fair. I'm very saddened that I'm not going to go. I feel awful. I should be. Want to be politically involved, but I've got a 3.5-month-old daughter, and I think getting her there will be, if I'm stuck in the middle of a march and she poos everywhere, it's going to be the worst day of our lives. And also, weirdly, I have some really good friends coming from America who I haven't seen in 10 years who are also over on that day. I feel like they've picked the worst time. I don't think they're getting a lift on Air Force One.
Maybe they've come especially so that they can protest. That's
That would
how
be good.
strongly
I mean,
they
I
feel
hope
about
especially
him.
for that reason, and not because they've really changed since I last saw them and they're over as part of his entourage or something. But yeah, so I've got quite crap reason. But I really wanted to see the big giant baby Trump hot air balloon.
Yeah, that
that's been
Sadiq's just
floating.
said, yeah, sure. Yeah, float it.
Can't
Well,
wait.
I agree. I think you should float, but I also think that it's slightly inappropriate in that the real Donald Trump can never keep hot air in for that long without expelling it from at least one orifice, normally during a press conference. So that's where I feel it's slightly wrong. But there you go.
Jason, who are you?
So I'm Jason Reed, on Twitter, Jason Tron, and I do the Stop and Search podcast, which is all about drugs. We should legalise, regulate drugs, decriminalise, and if you don't think you should, then have a listen to us why. We have all sorts of different guests on there. Thankfully, Tiernan has been helping us out. Because as you said, Tiernan, you've got to make this lighthearted. And when you're involved in drug policy, you realise there's a hell of a lot of death that goes on in it. We've got the highest record of deaths of all time at the moment. So to try and get some lighthearted spins on that really helps getting it the point across to people that aren't necessarily interested. So that's what I do.
One thing I find fascinating about your podcast is that for me, it's like a no-brainer on so many different reasons, for so many different reasons. But I guess the main thing I think it's not being pushed forward is because politicians want to stay in power. How much of an argument is that? How realistic is that a statement, or how true is that a statement?
It's a weird process because you've got the public opinion and then you've got the political opinion, and they both intertwine and affect each other. So the politicians until this day and age have thought that if we touch drugs and we come out, then the Daily Mail is going to attack us, and the middle classes, who predominantly are the voters, there's no getting away from it, that they're the ones that are being pandered to. They're going to completely be disenfranchised. But what we found is that you totally need to get the groundswell. You need to get public opinion to push forward, and then that elevates up to office. So that's what we try and do, is to get entertainment and marketing involved in this so that people can actually understand what's going on, because that's a lot of it, is people just don't understand the issues because it's so heavy, and you've got this position of all drugs are bad. It just makes some degree of sense. So if we can get nuance into the conversation, then they're brilliant. That's what we need.
It's sort of a shame as well, because if the Daily Mail, all the people that work there took drugs, they'd probably be a lot calmer about everything.
And
but they do take drugs, though.
The wrong
that's
ones.
the
Just the
irony.
wrong ones, yeah, sure. Good point.
And you're talking about a groundswell, and obviously an analogous story to that is the LGBTQ movement as well. And that's one that's, now, as we record this, it's Pride Month. Pride Festival particularly was in London, was at the weekend. And everywhere you go in London is a rainbow flag. You can't move for it. Costa has got rainbow in its
The
logo.
Overground's got a nice little "Every Love Matters" slogan on it.
And it's just been accepted. Whereas even 10 years ago, it was a whole different matter, wasn't it?
We actually did an episode on that very theme. Actually, we got Peter Tatchell, who's renowned LGBT. We had Steve Topple from the Canary, and Joan Slater, who's a friend of mine from Anyone's Child, and we did that. How can we learn from what the LGBTQ movement, what they did socially, what they did historically? How can we push this forward in different frames that they've utilised? And it was just such a fascinating discussion because there are so many overlaps.
Tiernan, you brought us The Young Offenders.
Yes, indeed.
Can
I
you
love
tell
this
us?
film.
Can you tell us why you brought it to us and a 2-minute synopsis?
I brought it. So I should sort of say that I came to the film the wrong way round, in that I watched the sitcom. It was a film first, and then it became a sitcom on RTE, and then that's been shown on the BBC since then, and got commissioned for a second series before the first series even finished because they liked it so much.
Right.
And I watched episode 1 of the series and loved it so much I wanted to find out if anything else had happened, and went, oh, it came from a film, and pretty much immediately within a day, went and watched the film and was just so absolutely delighted and just overjoyed by it. I think it made me and my wife laugh an awful lot. So the synopsis is basically two school friends, two teenage boys who are kind of troublemakers. They realise that, or they hear on the news that a huge shipment of cocaine has washed up on the shores of County Cork, and they decide to go on a mad cycling trip to go and basically get some of it so they can sell it and be rich and kind of live better lives. And they're both from sort of single parent families. They've both got sort of kind of troubled backgrounds, but they're really good-hearted. And it's essentially a really beautiful buddy kind of road movie, but in cycling in Ireland. And it's got some of the most incredible scenery as well, and lovely comic characters where everyone is both somehow ridiculous, but also very plausible and very realistic. And it's one of those films for me. It's probably pitched it probably a bit high for people who haven't seen it, but it felt like a sort of Irish Hunt for the Wilder People in that it just warmed my heart and made me feel and made me laugh. And I came away going, there's also some real goodness to it. There's some real goodness about finally showing working class people in a really lovely way and going, look at these good, they've screwed up, but there's, they're trying to do something good. And it's beautiful. I loved it. Anyway.
I'm not sure it showed them in a lovely way, but it's good natured. Jason, what were your thoughts?
I had no preconceptions of this whatsoever. I hadn't heard of it before you said. I didn't even know that. So is the series accessible? Can I actually get it?
I don't know if it'll still be on iPlayer, but you could. It won 2 IFTAs, which is like the Irish BAFTAs. What's nice about the TV series is it fleshes out all the characters even more, and it's got more about their school life in it. But the film is a very good starting point. Yeah.
So straight away, I could think of comparisons of different films that it reminded me of, which I think are fairly obvious when we get into. I think.
Well, no, we'll pull them out now if you want.
Well, I think, and I haven't seen it for a while, but Twin Town straight away struck my because it's that buddy movie in a kind of indigenous setting, very. Coming from middle class Kent, anything other than outside London just looks like some sort of completely wilderness to me. So yeah, coming from County Court, as you said, the accents are brilliant straight away.
Yeah.
The comedy accents that come with it, the fact that they swerve up at the end and everything, it just sounds brilliant straight away.
I'm not used to that kind of Irish accent.
No, I had to put the subtitles on. Yeah, I was like, yeah, I want to enjoy this, but I have no idea.
Yeah, the Cork accent's fantastic. It's the same. It's not quite the same, but if you ever listen to a Blind Boy podcast, from Rubber Bandits, he's got a Limerick accent, which is slightly different to Cork, but they both have very interesting intonation, which I think really adds to it. It's, again, really nice to, I don't know, see a film or see characters who don't just have the standard accents that you see in comedies.
That's one thing that took away from it. Sorry,
and even when there is violence and there's insults going on, it still sounds really lovely. When like they're being your friend as they're attacking you. It's just so cool. And it was. I had no idea where this film was going.
Yeah.
And what intrigues me is it says it's based on a mostly true story. So straight away, I then want to go back and find out what is true and what is based on. Complete.
So it's that it was 1.5. What was it? 1.5 million tons of. No, that can't be right. That sounds a lot, doesn't it? 1.5 something
euros
tons of cocaine washed up on Mizen Head on the southwest coast of Cork. So that's the real bit.
Oh, I see.
That's the other bit, and then the other true story bit is that he once went on a bike ride that was a little bit like that.
Oh, that's amazing! I didn't know that.
When you say he, who's he?
The writer. I can't remember his name. Yeah.
Yeah. Paul Foot, something like that.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Helen, what are your thoughts?
I loved it. I thought it was great. It's got a lot of heart and it's very, very funny. And it's just really funny. And it, like you've already said, it's set in a very, very beautiful part of Ireland as well. And it's just, there's something very simple about the fact that the reasons why they're going to get the cocaine is to have like this slightly better life where, they don't have to have slightly the horrible home life or have to work in a fish market and just kind of have that, like the bat cave. Their ambition is to live in this big house that they can see in the distance.
Yeah,
and have
a house that looks like City Hall. And
and have like a bat cave and not have to nick bikes and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, he does a terrible Cockney accent. Yeah.
So when you suggested this, I thought, looks like a crappy poster. Netflix gave it a price match, a recommendation match of 61% for me.
Right.
Which obviously, based on its algorithms, makes it sound like it's not going to be that good film for me. So I got up on Saturday morning. I thought I've got some work to do. I'm going to do some stuff on the laptop. And within like 2 minutes, I had to close the laptop down and put it to the side because I was just like, this needs my full attention because there's just so much nonsense, brilliant stuff going on.
I had a quick look online, and The Guardian gave it a great review, and I thought this sounds great.
Yeah.
So I was I was kind of thinking this sounds a little bit like a Twin Town kind of thing. Kind of
it's
small
sort of funny
town.
how what I was really surprised about is like in Ireland, I think it was like the fastest selling box office Irish film, but we didn't really. I don't think it was. Even, I don't know if it was released over here at all. I didn't really hear about it until I saw the sitcom afterwards.
Because we got like The Guard, we got
Calvary as well.
We got there's another one. Sing Street.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So it does. I don't know why we don't just naturally get everything that comes in.
And Grabbers as well. Did you ever see Grabbers?
Yeah, I did see
Grabbers.
Grabbers.
Is really fun.
Is that based in Ireland?
Yeah, that's set in Ireland.
Okay. That was the guy that was in Coupling.
Yeah, it is, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's that lovely thing of really dry Irish humour while aliens are killing people. And the only way that they can defend themselves from aliens is by getting drunk. And so everyone has to get absolutely twatted and then fight aliens. And it's genuinely, again, lovely. And one of that, there's again, the thing I love about Young Offenders, but the thing with Grabbers and the thing with Calvary and The Guard and all those films is you've got these incredibly beautiful, intimate scenes and quite funny, intimate dialogue. And then it will cut to like the most incredible scenic view of just like, you know, lakes and the coast and go, oh, wow.
I guess In Bruges has got a bit of that as well because Irish characters, but in a idyllic. It's a fucking fairy tale.
I mean, it is very, very funny. It's really accessible as well. I mean, the one I did write something like one of the characters said that his mum cooks food like she hates food.
Yeah.
And it's just...
It's all those...
Really
I love
funny.
there's a line like right at the top when they're sort of saying... what was he saying? You know, you've got a Jock saying to Connor, and Jock's the kind of the cocky kind of supposedly handsome one. He's the bigger one. He's the one that kind of commands things. And then there's the Connor, who's the smaller one, who kind of follows everything he does. And there's this nice bit where Jock's kind of saying, you know, come on, you know, we can get it. I know how to get there. You know how to find things. And Connor's like, yeah, if there's stuff to be found, then I'll find stuff. You know, it's that sort of slightly weird dialogue. It's beautiful. Yeah.
I think the relationship at the end is really nice as well. I don't know how true any of that part is, but the fact that there's, you can do spoilers, can't you?
Yeah.
So the fact that the mum ends up adopting the other kid, I thought that was just lovely. In the way that kind of circled all around, I thought that to me was just the perfect conclusion, I think.
It's nice. All the plot lines come back round, which is lovely, and I think that's a really nice writing style as well. Like, I really like Billy Murphy, who's the sort of psychopath character you're introduced to near the beginning because he steals Connor's phone, and because Jock then makes a rubber mask of his face and goes around stealing bikes as fake Billy, which is hilarious. But then the whole way in which that concludes towards the end, where Billy Murphy is released from prison just in time to be able to thwart this other psychopath killer from getting drug dealer, you know, from getting, and it just is a lovely way of kind of bringing everything together.
Yeah, I just had a lot of fun with it. I wasn't sure. I don't know. The only thing I'd say, which I kind of thought, not sure about that, was the guy that they stole the drugs off, because he had a gammy foot and a gammy hand, and that was part of the thing. But he didn't have that much of a redeemable character set there, did he? He was just, unfortunately, he'd been.
It's just one of those slightly bizarre moments in there where you're just a bit like, I don't know if I'm laughing at this or not.
Yeah.
It was a bit odd.
Yeah, it's weird. He's played by PJ Gallagher, who's a really good stand-up comic in Ireland. But weirdly, then in the series, that character's not around, and PJ Gallagher plays their teacher at the school.
Oh, okay.
Which feels like a kind of more sense. But you're right. I don't know why they made that character disabled when PJ Gallagher isn't. But then they also don't really allude to it, other than it just comes out in the way that he walks. But yeah, it's a really odd decision that I don't know why that happened.
I think it's just the potential reason why Connor was saying let's not steal the cocaine. I think that was maybe just have that kind of let's not steal it because, you know, he needs it more than we do kind of thing. But then he turns out to be a really evil, nasty guy.
And also that's like the really haunting, because it is, like you said, really it's got a lot of heart. It's funny, but he shoots people with a nail gun.
Yeah.
You know, Ray the drug dealer, and that's horrible.
I think Helen alluded to the fact there is quite a lot of moral ambiguity to it. The fact that, like you said as well, Tiernan, that the cocaine is used for the betterment of life, which is a lot you find in a lot of those towns. And, you know, going into my area of drug policy, a lot of times you find that social deprivation breeds the need to go into drug dealing, just pure survival and trying to better yourself. And the fact that that is used as, they're not going into it of quick, let's grab some drugs and do a big heist like a train spotting kind of thing. It's more in, I don't know how you describe their vending system, but they've not gone into it for that real moral degradation side of things. They've gone into it for more of a...
Well, it's one of my questions about the film is if they did manage to keep the cocaine, spoilers, I don't know what they'd then do with it. Because I can't really then imagine
nothing in their characters would suggest they would know what to do with it, or who to sell it to, or how to price it, or anything.
They're not smart enough, really, and that's the lovable thing about their characters. Yeah, so it's such an impossible task that they set themselves, and that's why it has such lovely high and then low points throughout the film, and also all the classic things that you need in a buddy film, where like the reason for them to fall apart and stop being mates, the kind of all those sorts
it's really sad as well. You genuinely feel that their friendship has taken a little dent, and you're kind of like, but they've got to patch things together, they've got to make it up.
I really love the incidental bits with friends, and that's when I like films like Twin Town and those buddy films. One bit that really makes me laugh now, even though it was just an incidental part, is when they're both cycling along and Connor punches him and he falls into the wayside. And that's exactly the kind of thing I would have done to my friends or my brothers as we were cycling along at low speed, just to kind of get away with it. Just even walking along, as 11-year-olds would punch a friend and then like ran off. And also when they were so Connor for some reason has got a sore ass, and he puts
an ice cream down.
Puts ice cream down his pants, and they decide to jump they're about to jump off the pier into 2 foot of water, and they're like psyching themselves up and getting that kind of thing going. And then the guy just stops and goes, "You're going to break your legs, guys. What are you doing?" There's just so many kind of incidental buddy films, which I always really draw myself to, and that's why I like the In-Betweeners a lot, because I can extrapolate that kind of banter I used to have with my friends there, and I think they just play it really well in this film.
And there are a few moments, but it does resist the urge just to be pure gross out humour as well. It's a lot cleverer than that.
It is,
which is nice.
It alludes to certain things, like there's a whole poo scene, but it doesn't go too far. It really doesn't.
No,
it just sounds bizarre saying that, but there's so many points of heart within it, isn't there? Like you said, the fact that they don't even call it drugs or cocaine, it's treasure. And that completely sets up the innocent mindset of it. Even though they're ultimately trying to do a drug deal, they're seeing it as treasure.
It's that whole attitude. They want to be kind of big metal, they talk about this big grandiose life, but then they can't even kill a chicken, or or they're afraid of lots of stuff, and there's a real vulnerability to their characters that I really like, and you can really connect with. And again, it's that thing that I was sort of saying before, that what I love, one of the things I get really angry about with comedies, I'm so picky and it's awful, but I get really angry with comedies where everyone's unrealistic, because I always like you need some sort of grounding. And what I like about this film is, while you do have some straight characters, like I'd say the mum is almost a straight character, she's got some really funny lines about, what is it, this is a sucker fish and that'll be your nickname in prison or whatever. It's amazing. But the boys themselves they feel plausible. They feel like they could be real people, because they're just ridiculous and stupid enough that you think, you're a teenager, you probably would be up to this sort of nonsense. But then they've got the real life problems as well. I don't know. They're really well-rounded characters. Everyone seems really well, maybe except the policeman, I think. But
I mean, he's an extreme case, but everyone around him realizes he's an idiot. So the fact that everyone's like, well, why are you chasing this bike thief? And the fact he goes to all this effort to put on a GPS tracking thing and all this kind of, he's taking it too far, but that's part of the plot. I like the way, what's Connor's mate called?
Jock.
I like the way Jock was so insightful as to say, that guy's been chasing us for the past half hour, and almost like he's a crack undercover policeman. He knows all these things. He sees his area. He knows his domain really well. And someone's chasing him on a bike, he can kind of sense them.
Yeah. Well, it's like the scene where he wants to do the heat conversation in the cafe. Where he feels that the best thing to do is, like Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, just confront the cop in a cafe and set out the ground rules, which obviously completely goes wrong. So lovely that's the first thing, and he's like, that's his only kind of field of expertise. Well, I've seen it in a film. It's got to be what works. I love that.
And also, I think it's really interesting. Obviously, they're on the trail of cocaine, but the actual real damage is kind of done with alcoholism.
Yeah.
In Jock's father and the old guy who they end up sharing an evening with.
That was pretty sad, that wasn't it?
I mean, I guess, obviously stereotype, Irish do love their drink, but I imagine that it's, quite a commonplace thing. So it does have these kind of quite poignant moments, and that kind of do bring it back to a reality as well, which I think is really interesting, because they could have played it for laughs or not included it, but it's quite an interesting sort of side to it as well.
And that's totally where it strays into my department of drug policy, because the cycles repeat themselves. If you've got an abusive family life, then the chances are that that cycle is going to repeat. And that is where the kids made a really brilliant case of that. When which one is it? Jock Connor, I can't remember, the one that had the father that was drinking.
Jock, yeah.
So him, he was clearly not happy in his home life, and that was the whole pursuit of why he wanted the treasure and the way out of his entire life. And it's sad, and it is. You do see it all the time.
Cool. I think, unless anyone's got anything else to say, let's go to the scores. Or do you want to comment?
No, I should say that I quoted something wrong earlier, and I
Sure.
feel awful about it. The actual line is, if I was looking for stuff, stuff would be found, which is way better than whatever I said. I wrote it down, didn't look at it. What an idiot. Anyway.
So these are non-painted, but we might do it one day.
Yeah.
Flixwatcher scores. You can have up to 5 in decimal places, should you feel, and zeros but no minuses. And because it's your choice, we will start with you on the recommendation.
I'm going to be awfully biased and just say I've recommended this to absolutely everybody I know, so I'm going to give it a 5 because I do. I just constantly tell people to see this.
Fair enough.
Yep.
Unashamed bias.
Jason.
I think I would go for a 4, but it was bizarre because I watched it over 2 halves. I watched some in the morning yesterday and then some in the evening, and my other half came in and said, "What is this? Is it just some kind of Irish Stand By Me?" And I was like, no. I didn't know how to explain it wasn't. And so I probably wouldn't recommend it to my other half and people like her, but I'd probably go 3.5, I think.
Helen.
Yeah, I did really, really like this. I didn't think it was perfect as such, but there is so much to enjoy about it. It's funny. It kind of feels very real. And I quite like the idea that there's, they've got a series about it, because I think there's a lot of strengths in it, but there is that slightly, I think the ending lets it down a little bit, the sort of finale.
In what way?
I don't know. It was just a little bit, I don't know.
Too neat in a way?
Yeah, maybe a little bit too neat. And I'm not sure just how they kind of ended up with everyone there and kind of wrapped it up. And I guess it worked for the story.
But do you mean the finale when everyone...
is in the kitchen at the tea
getting
party.
shot?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, that's obviously it's farcical, but
Yeah.
it works. I thought that was nice. I thought you meant how the foster, how the...
Oh no, I like that.
Okay.
I think that kind of, I don't know whether I presume they didn't know that they were going to get a TV series out of it, but it kind of set it up quite nicely.
Does the fostering continue?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. Well, in the series is all more. It's funny. The series kind of covers some of the ground of the film again,
Right.
but in a different way. So they have different mission. I think they have to steal a massive tuna fish in one of the episodes, and then there's sort of. They're various. It's funny because I watched them in quite quick succession, so they're almost shots from the film. I went, "Oh, you've used them again for the TV series," but they pace it out a lot nicer, and I think that having 6 episodes to do that is definitely to their advantage rather than having to wrap things up quickly. But you see, I really like the ending. I think it's got a very trying to think. It reminded me of maybe a sort of Danny Boyle-esque, but that kind of, it was certain slow down moments to this really kind of bouncy soundtrack, and it's just, I found it quite funny slapstick humor. But yes, you're right in that it's kind of slightly too conveniently neat. It just so happens that everyone knocks on the door at the same time, but.
Yeah, I mean, it does sort of work.
With the right amount of skills to do disarming.
Yeah.
One's got the knife, one's got the nail gun.
I'm a 4.5.
4.5. I'm going to join you on the 4-point side of the scale. Maybe 4.6, I think. I'm really happy with this. I'm disappointed that I hadn't heard of it before you said it, and glad that you brought it to us. And like I said, when I saw the poster and I saw the rating that Netflix has given it, for me, I thought it's just going to be...
What does Netflix know?
Yeah, exactly. I just really, really liked it. And like yourself, Helen, I think there's a few people who wouldn't... like yourself, Jason. I think there's a few people wouldn't appreciate it, but I think there's probably less people than you think I think people just, if there's anything talking about drugs or like gross out stuff, then they're probably the people you kind of stay away from. But if anyone's got any kind of...
And also subtle humour. I think there are certain people that don't like their Danny Boyle humour and things like that, and they prefer that either like a Dumb and Dumber in your face comedy. They don't necessarily like that dialogue comedy. You're going to be better to speak about that than me, Tiernan. There's probably scientific terms to put on that.
But I think it's also how this film was because, like you said, I really didn't know about it till the TV series. I think if somebody came to me and said it's a heartwarming, funny Irish comedy, I would have gone, oh, I'll check that out before knowing much about, But it's called The Young Offenders. It's got these two kids dressed up in their kind of tracksuits and shaved heads and weak moustaches, whatever. And I kind of thought, and immediately before I saw the series, I assumed it was going to be some really crap character comedy.
Yeah.
And I just gave it a chance because somebody had sort of said, oh, it looks good. So I think it's the way in which it's packaged. I think if you approach people with it and said, actually, there's a lot of heart to it, it's also very funny, you might get more people on board. But also, if they're not ready for the accents and they come in halfway through, that's a tough.
Yeah, I'd say
view,
subtitles is very helpful.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I need the subtitles, but I think if you're struggling at all with any TV show or film, just put the subtitles. It's not like a admission of failure. It's just admission that you want to understand.
It's also quite funny when they describe things that are happening on screen, but with the subtitles in terms of the music as well, which is quite funny, which adds an extra level of humour.
Rousing music.
Yes, that's it. Yeah.
See, my mum's deaf, so I'm quite used to the subtitles, and that you do get some brilliant stuff. I can't remember which film it was, but it was one film that specifically put in subtitles that weren't remotely connected to the film. And you watched it with the subtitles, it added so much to it. I think it might have been a series of unfortunate events or something like that.
Lemony Snicket.
There's Monty Python and the Holy Grail have subtitles that have nothing to do with the film. Really? And it's really fun watching that. There's basically the subtitle person resigns, I think, during it. And it's a really fun watch. Yeah.
How did I not know that?
It's really good. I don't know if that was only the DVD edition, but I remember they specifically written subtitles that were nothing to do with what was going on the screen.
Because Life of Brian's on there at the moment, so maybe Holy Grail's on there on Netflix at the moment.
It's worth having a look. Yeah.
I'll check it out.
Yeah.
Repeat viewing score, Tiernan.
I'll give this slightly. I won't go as nuts for this one. I've seen it. What have I seen it 3 times? But
in the space of how long? Sorry.
When did I start? Probably within this year. I think that was 2. But again, one of those was to kind of rewatch before doing this. So I don't think I'd have watched it. I think I'd have given it a bit more of a break, probably.
Sure.
3.5, 4.
Okay.
It's one of those lovely films, but I don't think you'd want to watch it endlessly.
Well, which one do you want? 3.5, 4?
Let's go 3.5. Let's go 3.5. I'll try and be restrained.
Be as unleashed as you want to be.
I think I'll go 3 because it's a good film. I definitely liked it. It reminded me quite a lot of the sort of mid to late 90s stuff that I used to watch. And again, Danny Boyle totally springs to mind within that. So I would watch it again, but probably not for some time. So I think I'll go 3.
Helen?
I'm kind of on the same. I'd say a 3. But I'm not adverse to watching it again, but I wouldn't be in a rush. But, if I came across the TV series, I'd be quite interested in that.
Yeah. 3. I'm going to go behind you guys. 3.9, I reckon. Very keen to watch the TV series. And it's quite interesting because most TV series then spin off into a film, don't they? And typically, the only case I could think of was Lock, Stock. When they had Lock, Stock and then a series of TV episodes after that, which
they made TV shows.
Yeah, it had Lisa Rogers, didn't it?
It did have Lisa Rogers.
Yes.
You're right. She was the main attraction for it. That's why we're like, oh, fancy her.
Yes.
And that wasn't very good. But typically it's TV shows 4 seasons then a movie, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'll be interested to watch it. Especially if that's the reason why you've watched the film based on the TV show. Yeah,
I'd almost go back to the TV show quicker than I would the film.
Yeah.
Simply because, as I said, that they're half an hour, they're really digestible. And in particular, I won't give too many spoilers for the TV show, but the final episode of the first season is just beautiful. It's Billy Murphy takes a bus hostage by accident. And it is an absolute joy. Like, it's just a real perfect half an hour of comedy. It's glorious.
When we talk about comparisons, when you said takes a bus jet, Speed 2, the episode of Father Ted, where he hijacks the milk float.
That is glorious.
It's one of the most beautiful half hours of television ever. Is that a fair comparison? Just Irishness?
I think I get where you're going with that. I think it's got that subtlety to it, and that's what I agree with.
I said 3.9, didn't I?
Yes.
the small screen score, Tiernan?
I think it's a perfect TV movie. I really like it on TV. I mean, again, I haven't seen it on the big screen, and it's got beautiful cinematography. You know, as we said, it's beautiful kind of vistas of County Cork. But I think it's a really good. Like, I'd love it on a Sunday afternoon. That would be like ideal.
Been down the pub, maybe had a couple of pints.
Yeah, and then turn that on. That's perfect. You know, I think so. I'm going to give it a 4 on the small screen score.
I agree with that. I think it's totally a small screen film. I can't imagine seeing it on the cinema, other than the fact that it has got great cinematography. But I think 4, because why wouldn't you want to watch it on Netflix? And I'm really picky about people that watch films on a train and things like that. I hate.
Do you want to do this?
Yes, it's like, just stop it. Wait until you get home and get set up and invest into it. But I think it could be a film that works on a commute.
Yeah, I think I do. I completely get that, and I don't like the idea of watching a film on the tube, but I do get that some people have like an hour-long commute each way, and it's like, well, that's a good way to
listen to a podcast, read a book.
Yeah,
but
podcast,
still.
perfect podcast listening time.
I mean, I'm a podcast listener.
If you've seen the film, you should tap them on the shoulder, wait for them to do that, and go, yeah, he dies in the end.
There's a film in that, like the commute horror story where someone gets murdered because of that spoiler.
Yeah, let's write it.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's crowdsource that.
Helen?
I'm going to give it a 5. I think this is, I mean, it's perfect for the next Netflix arena. I mean, it's a fairly recent film as well, and something that I didn't know anything about. And, you know, it's on Netflix. It's, you know, this great little movie that's been made really well. And, you know, this is where it's got to find its audience. So I really recommend it. And it's nice that it's on there to find.
5. I'm going to give it a slightly lower score than you, because I think had I known it existed and there was out in the cinema for a week or two, I would have enjoyed having a big laugh with people in the screening with me at the same time.
Oh, that's a good point, yeah.
And I think
I also think it's funny enough that you can have just a lovely little time.
Oh, you can. I mean, I was totally surprised. Like I say, I was fully set on writing some emails and like hopefully tittering away. But like I say, within 2 minutes, I put the computer down, and that's kind of rare these days. It's had me within 2 minutes, but I think I would have enjoyed having people in the audience. So 4.58.
The engagement score. So how engaged were you? Were you checking your phone? Did you have to have a stop and make a sandwich to get through the end?
IMDbing too.
I watched it. This was again, but similar to when again, to keep having to refer to the TV show, but that was similar when I first started watching the TV show. We immediately, me and my wife thought, oh, we've got half an hour spare, we'll put it on, and started playing on phones. Immediately put them down, and then because we came to the film with that attitude, we're then fully engaged with it. So I think it's surprising how much it sucks you in, actually. Yeah, so I'm going to give that quite a high rating, actually, of a 5.
Quite high. It's the highest.
It's the highest.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't even check Twitter, and that's weird because I've definitely got a problem with checking Twitter. So
well,
it
is officially 1 hour 24 minutes, which means like maybe 1 hour 20, including the credits.
I didn't even clock the time.
It's a really nice brief film, isn't it? Yeah.
Jason?
Yeah, I was quite engaged, and I didn't think I would be. I was kind of begrudging going into this from the start because I'm not actually that big a fan of those. You know, I'm not greatly keen on Twin Towns, and so I thought this is not going to be for me. And of course, being Monday morning when I chose to watch it, I should have been doing actual proper work. But I found myself like, no, I can totally get into this. But I did watch it over that was nothing to do with the film, but I did watch it over 2 parts. So I'd probably go with. Yeah, I think 4.5. I think it's surprisingly engaging, which is backhanded compliment. I apologise for the filmmakers on that.
Helen?
I'm going to give it a 5. I was completely engaged in this, and I think it's got a really great pace, so it zips along really well. There's no dull moments in it. It is just really great, and I was completely sold on it from the start.
I can't think.
No, it does. There's no, which is quite rare because there's seems to always be kind of a bit where you're like, didn't need to be there, or like, come on, get to the bit where they do the thing and wrap it up. Where there was none of that. Yeah,
it's something I forgot to mention. It's just how pacey it is. It's really, there's a really nice kind of speed to it all, isn't there? It just rattles through. And again, the soundtrack's really nice and punchy. There's sort of there's the other film it really reminded me of. I forgot to mention earlier, but it was Human Traffic.
Yes.
Just 'cause it's got that similar kind of big tunes carrying things through, but also really snappy dialogue, and it never seems to slow down. You know. Very 90s feel in that way.
Sorry, I'll go for a 5 as well. Like I say, put my laptop down, didn't think about the work I had to do, snapped along and loved every minute of it. Yeah, so engagement score of 4.875, which
really
has got to be
that is.
one of the highest ever. Overall score of 4.25. So where did it lose points? Repeat viewing.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's really strong, that is.
Yeah.
Anything above a 4 is pretty good.
Yeah.
Nice.
So
Well, you're welcome.
yeah. And no, totally. The fact none of us had heard the this episode of this film before is brilliant, and for it to be a good film is brilliant. And this is what Netflix should be doing, is like automatically recommending you.
Yes.
Things like that. Or maybe it shouldn't, because that should be our job.
Don't
Don't improve your
don't get good
algorithms.
Netflix.
I mean, this is one of the ones you have to search and start. I had to type in all of the word young
Yeah.
to find. I don't know if you guys found it quicker than that, but
Well, sometimes it starts. Well, if someone's got the name Alan, like Paul Young or something, they'll start bringing their names up instead of like the film. Because I was trying to find French and Saunders because all their seasons are on, all their
really?
shows are on there.
Okay.
And when you start typing French, like
Comes with French films.
yeah, French films, all these other things, you're like, well, surely it's French and Saunders. We're in the UK. You type in Frere, it's got to be French and Saunders is the first thing that comes up.
it's got one of the worst. I hate Netflix's search function. It just
It's very
doesn't work for me
clunky.
at all, yeah.
I was a little bit worried because I had got to maybe like the N and the G, and I was like, oh, it's not up here. What if it's gone? What if it's gone? What if it's not here?
That's what we're going to do. And then off, still not there.
Panic. But yeah, I'm going to be. I've got some friends who live in Cork, so I'm going to recommend this to them and see if they've seen it.
Every Irish person, I'm going to say, have you seen this?
And every non-Irish person as well.
Yeah. Right, guys. So let us know where we can find you online, and say sayonara to the fans.
So I'm at Jason Tron, and if you want to follow Stop and Search stuff, then go to at UK Leap and then get in touch with Drug Policy.
And I'm at Tiernan Douieb, and I'm not going to spell that for you. And you can find my podcast, Partly Political Broadcast, where you find podcast things.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks for bringing the film.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thanks for having us.
Bye.
Bye. Cheers, guys. You were just listening to the latest episode of Flixwatcher podcast. Thank you to Brendan Russell for his sublime editing skills, Mighty People for the tunes you can hear right now. Please do come to iTunes and find us, like, subscribe, share with your friends. Find us on Twitter at FlixWatcherPod and our website, flixwatcher.tv.